Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm going over the games I'm adding to my collection for the month of December. As usual, these are based off the games that I played in November, just going over the whole month and seeing what I want to actually add to my collection. We have a bunch we're going to be getting into, but as usual, we'll start with a quick recap of what left. This is the sister video. This is the sister video to the series of the games leaving the collection, and to that end, this past month and the games leaving the collection for the month of December, we had 11 campaign games leaving in my campaign game purge, and an additional 10 games leaving in the games leaving the collection video. For the 11 campaign games, you can check that video out, or check the last 2 minutes of the games leaving the collection video. But for the 10 games in the games leaving the collection video, as a quick summary, we had Nar, Tranquility the Ascent, Flashback Kids, or Flashback Zombie Kids, Flashback Lucy, Contrabanter, Spicy Junior, Mess from the Stars, Mythwind, and Space Explorers were the 10 games that were leaving my collection for the month of December. To that end, we're going to go ahead and start off with the games I'm adding. And we're going to have the usual, we have some categories that are not quite adding, which we'll start with those. We have Kingdom Legacy and the Morrison Game Factory. Well, I should do these one at a time. We have 2 games in the category of games that are not being added to my collection, but I'm going to talk about anyway, which we'll explain. We have 2 games. We have Kingdom's Legacy. That is a small pocket-sized game from Firaxis Games. It's a legacy game, which is why it's not being added, because I'm going to finish it and then move on from it. But I do really like it. Like, it is a game that would be added. I may even try to get my hands on another copy of it so that I can play it a bit more, and then alternatively go through it with my daughter or something. I don't fully know. But effectively, Kingdom Legacy is a small handheld game, kind of taking inspiration from Palm Island, but turning that into a legacy game. It's from Firaxis Games, the people behind Terraforming Mars, and I think it's amazingly fun. They couldn't care less for the art, couldn't care less for like the overview, but the general puzzle of a solo legacy game where you're managing a bunch of cards and just going through a deck and slowly adding through things and trying to optimize your score. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and like I said already, it's the kind of game I probably am going to replay, but because it's a legacy and still temporary, I'm just not really counting it as a game being added to my collection per se, but it is excellent. Similarly, we have the Morrison Game Factory. The Morrison Game Factory is an escape room game. It's from Post Curious, who have done a lot of other escape room games. I've covered their games in the past on the channel. I still have other of their games that I still need to cover. But effectively, the Morrison Game Factory, I think, is excellent. I should have a review coverage for it at some point. But it is a great game that I played once, and I don't see the need to play again because I've solved all the stuff I need to solve. So again, it is getting kudos here as a game that is good enough to be added to my collection, but as an escape room game, it is done and moved on from, and I will never play it again, past possibly watching somebody else play. That's the closest you can't do an escape room twice unless you forget everything or enough to. There's so many escape room games, I would never play an escape room game twice. I say that confidently, but now I'm trying to figure out if I actually have. Anyways, that's going to be the 2 games that are being added, but not actually added per se. The other games over here, we do have 6 more in the category of games that are actually being added. We have Avalon, the Riven Veil over here. Avalon is somewhere over here on the table. I think this is fantastic. I've really enjoyed my plays of this. This is an area control game from Shadowborn Games. I think they did a tremendous job with it, and I thoroughly enjoyed my plays of it. I thoroughly enjoyed the card management system. I think they did a great job at delivering a good 2-player experience as well, in addition to the 3- and 4-player experience, which further adds to it. I think 2-player area control games are not always that great, and this one did a great job at 2 and higher player counts. So Avalon the Riven Veil is being added. We have Vestige, which is not on the table because I still don't have a copy over here, but Vestige from Orange Nebula is being added to my collection as well. It does have a lot of shared DNA with Vindication, which is, as of last year, my #1 game of all time. But despite the shared DNA, there are still reasons to add it to my collection, primarily going to be the fact that, first of all, just as far as shelf space and ability to transport or carry around, it's going to be my go-to travel game in that genre. We also have the fact that you can play it with Nemesis or Nemesi or whatnot if you want to play through the solo or cooperative experience. But overall, I enjoy Vestige, and I'm happily going to be adding that. We also have Clans of Caledonia. I covered this recently on the channel. Thought it was fantastic. I've had it in my collection for a long time, but in the unplayed games category, which doesn't really count as in my collection. But I've had it on the shelf for a long time. Finally got to table it, and in the past 2 weeks, I've played this game already. Like, as of filming this video, I've played this game already 5 times, so I'm enjoying this one a lot and excited to continue to play this one. Clans of Caledonia is fantastic. We also have Ethnos. This is a tricky one because I almost missed this one, because usually when I'm looking for the games I'm aiming at my collection, I'm sorting through BG stats and looking for the tag for new games, games that are new to me. In this case, in Ethnos, it's not new to me, so I almost missed it, but I am adding this to my collection because Ethnos is a re-implementation of an older game. I love, well, not that old, but this is a re-implementation, and I always thought Ethnos was a great game, but I always thought the production and presentation was not great. Simon has done a great job with the second edition, to the point that I not just taking it to like a good medium level, but actually making it a great game, just even visually and thematically. I'm much more immersed in like trying to pick the clans and figure out what I want to add. The art's better, the graphic design's better, everything about Ethnos is better, so this is just being added in, and again, I should have dedicated review coverage for you at some point if it hasn't gone up on the channel already. We have Western Legend Stories. That's another one that's being added, Western Legend Stories, which I think I should have had in my last month's video, because technically I played it like the last day of October, but I forgot to. I checked last month's video, it wasn't there. Western Legend Stories is a game that I will be adding to my collection. Like some of these other legacy games, it is temporary in nature. Like, that's one that's going to be added, and then I'll play through it and see where it goes. So you could argue it should go into the legacy category, but because it's a longer experience, I don't know exactly how long that phase will last, we're going to add it to my collection, and then when I'm done with it, it will leave, but I don't know when that will be exactly, so I'm just putting an asterisk around it, and that won't be added. And then lastly, we have Lands of Evershade over here from Awakened Realms. Lands of Evershade I loved, and I'm very excited to dive into it. I thought it was an excellent campaign game experience. It really delivered. To me, I think it's my favorite Awakened Realms game, if you exclude Castle of Burgundy, which I don't fully count as their game. On the other hand, I did just have Stalker show up, so I'm excited to dive into Stalker while I wait for the final version of Lands of Evershade. And I had already the Path Through Dare Tread show up, which I'm also excited for. So my campaign games are totally fine while I wait for the final game of Lands of Evershade to show up. And so those are going to be the 6 games that are being added to my collection for the month of December. Which brings us to, let's do the math. Let's do, at the end of these videos every single month, I do the math on how my collection has fared over the year. So far, as of the last video, we were up 16 games. So as of the last video, when I did this games added to my collection last month, my collection size had increased 16 games over the course of the year. But this month we finally got things back in check, because we have a bunch of things that were changing. The first is we're doing some undoing over here, and I do feel bad about these, but it's the nature of when I do these videos, I do it based on if I've played the game and my current interest in those games, and sometimes those things can change. But over the past 2 months, there were 3 games that I put in the added to my collection that after subsequent plays, I don't think I will be. And those are Tend from Ivy Studios, World Order, and Revenant. All 3 of which are good games in different ways. Tend is probably my least favorite from those. Tend I still have a drive to continue to play. And again, some of these games I may get final games of, and in which case I may try to table them more. But as of right now, I don't think these are games that are going to be keepers. Tend is a good game, but ultimately I find that I always want to do more. After my first play, which is when I talked about it last time, I was like, I'm very, very interested in adding to my collection. But after subsequent plays and more plays, I just kind of felt more and more like I wasn't getting the experience I wanted out of it. And so I think I've already moved on from 10 to that extent. We have World Order and Revenant, which again, I also, in all cases I made sure to note that these were first impressions based on where things are and they could change. But since I already know they're changing, I am giving you those updates. World Order and Revenant, I think, are both great games. World Order in particular, I think, is very, very good. But realistically speaking, just the bandwidth of the games I have, I do think it is a slightly longer teach and longer play than what I'm looking for. I think it's fantastic. I will never turn it down. But at the end of the day, well, I shouldn't say I never turn it down. I think it's a game I'm happy to play. But at the end of the day, after subsequent plays of World Order, I do think it is still a longer game experience that I'm looking for. And I would probably table games like, Dune Imperium over it just for the shorter and more accessible playtime. And then Revenant overall, again, very, very satisfying. But after subsequent plays, again, it's very, very thinky. I still think it's great, but I do try to be very, very selective about what actually gets added each month. And so those 3 games are going to be lower. So effectively, what do we have over here? So let's do some quick math. We were up 16. We are adding 7. We are undoing 3, but then 21 games left in the games leaving the collection video series. So that's 24 games that are going down and 7 up for a net total of down 17, if you're following the math there. Which means if we were up 16 last month, as of this video, we are currently at -1 game for the year, and we still have our end of year purge, which I'm pretty happy about because I like keeping my collection as manageable as possible, and the idea that I might actually end this year with a negative number on my collection, that makes me happy. happy because I'm trying to keep things. I'm not trying to get rid of all my games. I like having games, but I do try to make sure my collection isn't just ballooning up every year because otherwise there's no real end to where that goes. And that is basically the games being added to the collection, or I guess in this case you could argue subtracted once you undo the whole math, for the month of December. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.